Welcome to the Irish Farmers Journal Weekly Podcast, brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy.
Explain to me about the machine first of all, Peter.
Okay, well, first of all, Anthony, it's a steam engine. It worked on steam. This was typically what was used back before the era of TVO and petrol and diesel and so forth. I suppose steam engines, you could almost say, were short-lived because the life of steam was, I'd say, maximum 40 years, 50 years.
And these do the jobs just as good as any petrol machines did before them?
Absolutely. Well, of course, these were after the horse, really. So they took over. A steam engine could come in and it could do a lot of manual work on a farm, on an estate. Not everybody had a steam engine. Not everybody could afford a steam engine back at that time. They were predominantly found in estates or contractors. Contractors, would have used them and brought thrashing mills around from farm to farm, that type of thing. It wouldn't be unusual for maybe a number of people to get together to acquire a steam engine and a thrashing box in an area.
Thrashing box for the straw?
For thrashing corn, for separating the grain from the straw, yeah, which is what you see here on the front. Then, of course, in the real big estates, which were predominantly owned by the British people back in that time, these being British built, the real big estates always had 1 and 2 engines. For their own, just doing their own, generating their own electricity, their own stone crushing, so they could make their own roadways throughout estates. They had their own saws for cutting up timber, for doing paling stakes, roofs for houses, stables, all that sort of stuff. But they were all driven by steam. So the steam engine had a very, very important role back at that time.
And would this have been the intermediate phase between horse and petrol?
Absolutely. This was the only form of power at that time, because there was nothing else, that could give you mechanical power other than steam.
Would you have any knowledge of, say, how kind of expensive these would have been back in the early 1900s?
Yes, I mean, you could pay probably £80-90 for one of these. Whereas now you're talking of a different calibre,
What would that be in today's money, that'd be?
Today's money, you could be talking up on 150,000. However, I think it's important to note that these engines are only as good as their boilers. Boiler of a steam engine is the most crucial and important part of the engine, because it is in many ways, it's a mobile bomb. And it has got to be, because it's a pressurised vessel, so it's got to be inspected twice a year by independent inspectors, and it comes under serious scrutiny before you can bring it into a public arena like today.
You'd bring these to shows. Would there be many other people in the country that would also have this kind of machinery available?
In Ireland today, there's about 206 or 207 engines. Probably half of them would be steamable, maybe not all out half. The maximum any rally event you'd get in Ireland is about 50 odd engines, which is good. As I said, the obvious reasons for the others not being out and about is there's lots of reasons, but predominantly would be the fact that the boilers will be condemned and they don't meet the current legislation and so forth.
And specifically today, what is the duty of this engine? What are you doing here today to kind of showcase what it is? We've
been invited on by Teagasc here back some months ago. Because of the 1916, this would be very much what was used typically at that era. This engine being close to that age, and we're using it here today for driving a thrashing mill. And we're lucky in the sense it's a ransom engine, but it's also a ransom thrashing mill, and it's unique to get the same makers of a thrashing machine and an engine together. So we're here today for that purpose.
Peter Wrafter, thank you very, very much.
The Irish Farmers Journal Weekly Podcast, brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy.